Welcome back to the Fuck Around and Find Out podcast, Perimenopause edition. Today's episode is one of the most real, unfiltered, and important conversations we've ever had because it's not just about us as women, it's about the people we love who are impacted by us. I'm sitting down with my husband, Jake, to talk about how my hormonal changes during perimenopause have affected our relationship, our communication, and even our marriage dynamic. So I figured we could just start by addressing some of the comments on TikTok.
Yeah, I want to hear some of these. What do these guys think of me?
They love you. So one guy says, why is it that women think hormones give you a pass on bad behavior? Testosterone is also a hormone. If your man has high levels of testosterone, does it give him a free check to be violent, unfaithful, or mean to you? Or all of the above, which have also been shown in multiple research to be an effect of too much testosterone. I commend you for at least having some self-control and keeping it under control. Well, at least he was nice about that. But yeah, like what are your thoughts on the comparisons that we're noticing with these comments?
Well, I think it's just coming from people who don't really know what they're talking about and they think they do, and so they just want to chime in and tell you how it really is, or tell you that you're wrong, or it's just interesting that these guys all of a sudden have a bunch of knowledge on perimenopause and how it compares to testosterone. Like, what are you doing? It just seems like they're, like I said earlier, the same type of people that are being like, well, all lives matter. And it's like, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about perimenopause. So why are we changing the subject?
That is a good point, because most women who are actively in perimenopause don't really even know that much about it.
Right.
It's hormones, and the knowledge of hormones is ever evolving. And even as someone who specializes in hormones, I'm still learning something every single day about this phase of life. So yeah, I like that you said all of a sudden they're an expert on the comparison of women's hormones versus male hormones. I am also curious to hear your perspective on all these comments of saying like, and you wonder why men want to date younger, be careful, he'll leave you for an 18-year-old. Maybe we should all just be single between the ages of 40 and 55.
I mean, it's, when women go through this and it's not treated, or it's just given a medical Band-Aid of birth control or whatever, or, whatever the medication of the month might be, it's not healing anything. And they do become like kind of a different person, And so, yeah, they'll comment that's like, no wonder people date younger. Yeah, a little bit I see that because it's like, yeah, our fucking medical system has failed women, in my opinion. Because of that, they don't get the help they need. Then they're all burnt out and they're fucking, kind of going crazy. And we're like, who the fuck is this person? That's not who I married. So I kind of see what he's saying with that comment, because it's kind of true. And if women had more help, that shit wouldn't be happening as much, I don't think. So with that one individually, I'm like, I can kind of see where he's going with that. And I think it has a lot to do with the medical system just failing on women in this stage of life.
Right. I agree. I think that because it is so cumbersome for, we were just talking about this the other day, like it's an elective to learn about menopause and perimenopause, and it's so challenging to attack. Like if I were a doctor, I don't know if I would want to specialize in it. Like it's a big animal, but the reason that I have decided to specialize in it is because I'm like, holy shit, this is what this feels like. It's so scary and makes you feel like you're unlike yourself. I have felt unrecognizable to myself, but I also think that as a result of that, like being failed by our system, we as women just get mislabeled as difficult when we hit a certain age. And that is totally unfair.
Yeah.
And I also would go as far to say, like, there are caveats when you date younger as well.
Oh,
like,
sure.
There's definitely pros and cons. Like
saying, yeah.
Going as far as the 18-year-old comment was fucking weird and gross.
I can just see why that kind of happens and that guys kind of eventually do go for a reset, or the female goes for a reset, because I feel like a lot of the divorces at this age are actually initiated by women being just fed up, and they can't fix themselves. They can't communicate with their man. The man can't communicate with them. It's like this pull and push where like both people just want to be happy, and they'd probably prefer to be together, but they just can't communicate about it right on both sides, you know? And men have fucking hormonal issues too. As we get older, our testosterone drops and lots of things change too. Like, we're going through some shit too. I don't think it's nearly as severe and fucking so much of a roller coaster, but you know, we gotta like look at ourselves too and go, well, I think I'm the same guy, but like maybe some shit internally has changed with me too, and maybe we need to fucking get on the same page, you know? So it's tough, but yeah, I think there just generally needs to be more communication about it, more understanding about it, more awareness created, and doctors that don't just go, yeah, here's the medication and just tell me if that one's side effects are too bad so we can give you a different one, you know?
Right. Yeah. I agree that, you know, the term midlife crisis didn't just come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it is just because of perimenopausal women. I think midlife, you know, which used to be our 40s, now we're living longer, so it's, you know, a little bit higher to determine what midlife is. But you go through changes, you know, you're entering a phase of your life where you've grown up, you know, you've created a certain lifestyle that you've been working towards, and a lot of times once you get the lifestyle that you've been building, a lot of your values change. You know, we've both been going through this. And I agree. And that's why I put that video up, is basically just to spread awareness. I wasn't saying that I'm right, you're wrong, or anything. It was a very self-deprecating video. Like, I'm fully aware I'm a fucking nutcase.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's why it was interesting, some of the comments you brought up, because to me also those comments come from people who didn't watch the whole video. And they just watched what they felt like was a bitch fest, you know, of complaining that they hear every day from their wife, oh, this isn't an excuse. This doesn't give you the right to do this or that. And it's like, if they watch the whole video, you literally are like calling yourself out the whole time. That's what the whole video is about. And that's why so many women commented saying, this is me, like, fuck, like, God damn it. You know, it's like, yeah, this is me calling myself out and calling all you out, and also letting guys know, like, hey, maybe, like, you know, maybe give me a little break and just kind of talk to me, try to support me because I'm going through it. And then maybe my reaction might be different. You know, the lady's reaction might be different. So it's, yeah, I think it was just more of like an awareness thing and admitting, like, yeah, I'm being a crazy bitch right now. Can you help me out a little bit? You know?
I honestly think that that has been one of the most frustrating parts of this whole phase, is being aware of how unreasonable I am, and being aware of like how differently I've been acting and my thought process and stuff. It's really fucking frustrating to hear words coming out of my mouth and be like, I don't want to be saying this right now, but I'm saying it and I can't stop. You know, it literally, I feel like I've been possessed at certain points of this process. I really do. You know, or like crying and I don't know why I'm crying, or I'm crying over something that really shouldn't be that big of a deal. Like, the inability to handle stress is huge. And I think that a lot of times we just focus so much on the physical aspect, like the hair loss and the, you know, weight gain and stuff. But it's really the mental and emotional aspect that I think ruins marriages. It's not the weight gain. And I also don't think it's the lack of libido. I think it's the inability to communicate how you're feeling and validating like each other.
Right. That's, I would say, yeah, the biggest one is that, because you just end up, like, you say something one time and there's a certain reaction, so you don't want to do it again. And then that stops you from saying things and voicing things from how you feel. And then you feel like you're walking around on eggshells around that, you know, around each other. And then yeah, and then just little arguments can start. And really, I watched one of the worst arguments my parents ever had was when they were in this stage. They were in their 40s, early 40s, and they got into the craziest fight over the plumbing in the house and like where they think the pipes actually go. I swear to God, my dad is in the hallway like, they have to come this way. And just, I swear to God, it was one of the biggest fights they've ever been in. And I remember the next day just being like, what the like, I was like 11 or something, you know, I was young. It was like, what is going on? And now looking back, it's like, I've never ever seen them argue about something that dumb prior or post. Like,
I could see the divorce papers, grounds for divorce, pipes.
Yeah.
Fight
They go to the left. No, they go to the right. Like, it was so crazy. And I don't know why I remember this so vividly, but I remember my dad, like, in the hallway, just like, turning red and shit. And it was because they couldn't properly communicate, you know, how they were really feeling at that time. And this was like when my mom was still really overweight. She was still smoking cigarettes, you know, working crazy hours, and had absolutely no hormonal health whatsoever. She had been dealing with 2 crazy kids. I mean, I don't even know how she survived it, you know? And
I don't know how a lot of our moms survived that without all the help that there is now. Like, yes, we feel dismissed by the medical system, but there are a lot of avenues, like coaches, like what we do, and being able to actually advocate for yourself because the knowledge is so available for free. Like, if you do your own research, back then my mom would have to resort to a fucking medical book.
yeah. You know, it was interesting. I spoke to someone who was talking about her grandmother. She was our age, but she was talking about her grandmother and saying that her grandmother had tons of knowledge on hormones, and they were like tested all the time. And it was common for them to like go in and, you know, get things tested for their hormones and get like natural remedies for that, or, you know, supplementation recommendations instead of just, okay, birth control, or okay, HRT. You know, there was that. I don't know how much truth is behind that, but I'm curious to see.
Were
like,
they in a different country?
No, it was here. It's just the generation before our parents, you know, because that's the one we know the most knowledge of, right? I'm curious to see if that is, or if it was more, because it would kind of make sense, right?
Before Big Pharma took over everything.
Exactly what I was going to say. Then Big Pharma got involved, and they started realizing that certain medications can have these positive effects for other things, you know? That's how a lot of medications are made up anyways. Like, I think like Viagra is supposed to be for something totally different, but they realized it makes your dick hard. And they're like, all right, put it on. So it's like, you know, they figure out that these medications start to help some stuff, and for some people they need it. But then they just, you know, now the doctors, instead of recommending little supplements that they don't make any money off of, you know, now they recommend what Big Pharma tells them to do, and they make money.
Yeah, Viagra does have alternative effects that's supposed to be helpful, I think, for cognitive function.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I think it was like for something with your brain.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh.
Both of my heads are getting bigger.
Goes to the other head too, yeah.
So I want to know, like, if you could pinpoint when this shift started happening. Was there any signs that you can reflect on? Because to me, it feels like it was a very, very slow, gradual thing. And all of a sudden one day, like, I feel like I exploded.
Yeah, I would say that. It's something like that. And I think that's what happens with most of the women that we talk to. They're like, oh, well, yeah, you know, I kind of got this thing started maybe around there. Like, if I ask them, you know, oh, when did your symptoms start? They're like, oh, you know, I had this thing and my sleep was kind of disrupted, night sweats, and, you know, and then I had this thing happen, this car accident, or this had a kid, or some stressful circumstance, and then this, and then I got endometriosis, and then I got this, and it's like, okay, sounds like these have just slowly been compiling over time, and there's like enough space in between each thing that you're able to create a new normal before the next thing happens. And then the next thing happens, and you kind of just roll with that punch, and you kind of get that to a working situation, and then you just kind of go to the next one.
And there's a lot of environmental factors that make it confusing too, like to pinpoint.
Right, exactly. And you're like, oh, wait, is this from hormones, or is this because I did this other thing? So many others, sure. And then you're just like, okay, this is my new normal, and you just don't even realize how many symptoms you're actually dealing with until you like get asked about every single one of them, or there's a questionnaire in front of you, and you're like checking every fucking box, and you're like, oh shit, I guess maybe I do have some stuff going on. So yeah, I think that happens for everybody. It's more of like a slow thing. And that's why you're like, I don't even recognize myself anymore, because it didn't happen overnight. It's like gaining weight. You know, you slowly gain weight, and you're like, what the fuck? How did I get this big? You know, or even trying to work out and gain muscle. You're like, I don't see a difference. But if you don't see someone for 6 months and then they see you, they're like, oh my God, you're huge, you know, like so.
Well, and I think it was also interesting in my situation because, for example, the night sweats, you have night sweats.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of in this position where I was like, shit, like maybe it is our mattress. Maybe it is that our room isn't cool enough. Maybe we do need a different comforter because we're both sweating now.
Yeah.
And so it was really weird.
How many fucking mattresses and blankets did we try? Oh
and the
my
mattress
God.
cover and just all kinds of shit, cooling sheets.
Oh,
we almost bought an
bamboo
air
sheets.
conditioner for our mattress.
You have ice packs laying under your bed right now. We did 2 or 3 different mattresses, at least 2 different mattresses, and I don't even know how many blankets, 5, 6 blankets and covers and fuck. And then what was it that actually fixed it for me? I started using testosterone, and it cured my night sweats completely. Now, occasionally I'll get a little hot, but I would go get a towel. I would get up, go get a towel, lay the towel down and have it soak up. Oh, then I'd have to put a towel on top of me because the blanket was soaked and wet and cold. I just wrapped in towels.
Yeah. We won't be able to sell our mattress. Like,
fuck no.
But that.
Oh, don't mind this 6'3" yellow spot. That's not pee, I swear.
But it is kind of interesting that you have exhibited many symptoms that are related to perimenopause also. Like not just the night sweats, but like you can't stand the sound of me chewing all of a sudden. That literally just started like 6 months ago.
That is true. Gosh, maybe I do need to get my hormones tested. Oh my God. Yeah, I fucking can't stand it. I've never had a sound that annoys me like that. Besides obvious things, a screeching noise or something like that, sure. But I have never, ever, ever had like a sound or a thing, anything. Like the wind in your face thing for you that's like, you don't like, nothing. I've never had anything like that I could think of. And God damn it, I cannot stand hearing anyone chew it. It's not just you. It's just you're the only person that I like quietly, in like, in
close quarters.
Spaces, super close to just like.
And I eat around you all the time,
But and now it's like, it's like. So thinking about it, I'm like, she's seeking me out now. I'm like on the couch by myself, like quiet. And you just like come over to, can I eat by you? And I'm like,
I live here too.
Such a big house. Oh, you gotta eat by me.
And also, I chew with my mouth closed.
I know I don't. It's funny now. It's like I thought about the other day. I was like, I want to get like one of those things that tests his sound, and I just like test it. Because I want to know, like, how is it just 100% me? Because I think it is.
It didn't all of a sudden change the way I chew in the last year, so.
Or do you slightly chew a little louder or something? I mean, I don't it's definitely me. It's definitely
me. What's really hard is those new protein bars that I like because they're all marshmallow. And imagine eating a chocolate-covered marshmallow so slow so you don't make a sound. And I'm just like...
See?
Like it's really hard to...
Never actually chew it. You just kind of mush it around to a different shape so you can swallow it.
But I feel like there's other symptoms too. It's not just the night sweats and like the sensitivity to sound. I feel like there's been like other symptoms that we share, For example, you've always had allergies, but... I've never. And then that was also another environmental circumstance that made it confusing if this is hormonal or not. Because we moved to Washington and we're surrounded by trees. And then I got the COVID shot. And I've heard that will throw you into all of a sudden having allergies.
Oh, shit.
So I was like, is it the COVID shot? Is it living in Washington? Or is it the fact that you become more sensitive to histamines when you're in perimenopause? Or is it all of those things? Fuck me, right? I haven't felt them this year though. But yeah, I feel like we share a lot of symptoms and it's really interesting. And maybe that's why you've been so empathetic towards me about it too,
Maybe, yeah.
Like the ADHD portion of things.
Yeah, I was going to point that out too, that, we both definitely exhibit symptoms of ADHD, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, mine has been new. And it's another thing that's really fucking frustrating. I'm sure you can relate, because you're an athlete, played a lot of sports. Like, think about a sport that you've been really good at your whole life, and then all of a sudden you just fucking suck.
Yeah.
That's how I feel with my mental clarity and cognitive function now. I'm like, I've always been really good at focusing and getting shit done. And now I'm like, squirrel, I have 3 hours blocked out for this one task and then I never fucking do it.
Yeah. The brain fog is real. Yeah, I don't know if it's just it tends to come with age as well, I'm sure. But yeah, it's definitely, I feel like, gotten worse for me too.
Well, I do think we need to get your hormones checked. So I wonder if you could share how this phase of my life has been impacting you and how you feel and are able to function.
Well, I mean, it's the fact that we're, helping so many women with this has just opened my eyes to the whole like system that's in place in America revolving around like women this age. It's fucking terrible. And it doesn't always excuse their actions if, women are just fucking on a mission to, get in a fight with their spouse or whatever it is. I'm not trying to totally excuse that, trying to be realistic about it and know that if there's millions of women saying the same shit, it's probably real. And we probably need to give some credit and some understanding and support in that area as men, because what do we expect them to do if we're just like, you're acting crazy? What do we expect? So, but there's also we don't have the knowledge either, So I think when I first started helping you with this, I didn't see any women, everyone we spoke to was at her wit's end, about to drown. Like, just, I have tried everything. My doctors aren't doing anything. I'm gonna fucking lose it. And now, more and more so, I feel that we get women that are like, I've heard perimenopause can be a son of a bitch, and I'm just trying to get ahead of it, So I think that, yes, this has had some, there's been some negative effects, there's been some struggles, there's been some arguments, things like that. But overall, I think it's been a positive experience. And the more that we go through this, the more we get to share with other women and other couples and let them know that they're not alone. They're not fucking crazy, although they may be acting a little crazy sometimes. But we're all fucking crazy, We're all trying to figure this shit out, and it's not going to help unless we actually communicate and want to both get better and not want to, just blame the other person.
Right. I agree, and I think that was one comment that really stood out to me on that TikTok video, that he was like, she's still in there, that it like makes me emotional every time I think about that. Because imagine how many women that are not as self-aware as I am and that don't do this shit for a living. Like, the only reason I've been able to get a grip on it, I think, is because I do it for a living.
Right.
And imagine how many men are not willing to hear and validate and just support.
Sure.
Like, this shit can definitely blow up a marriage really fucking quick. Like, in reflection, we've gotten in fights over the Kardashians, which it blows my mind. Like, why were we fighting about them? Why do we both have such strong opinions? And we've gotten in 2 fights about the Kardashians. But they did get to the point that, like, you got pretty fucking heated. I remember you, like, had to get out of the car and walk away. And those are things that I think, never would have happened when we first got together. Never would have happened in my early 30s, But there's just some things that I just cling to now.
Yeah, it's interesting, the hills in which you choose to perish on. That is interesting. It's it's interesting, like the dishwasher one. You were just like, I know you don't like it when I do that, but I still did it. I was like, yo, that was pretty lame.
I do it because I feel it's the right way.
It's like, so funny.
I don't know what we need to do about the dishwasher, but I get it. Like, just now, I was like, I'm just going to leave the fucking kitchen.
Well, you know what I did to make your stuff fit? I moved the coffee cups that you put in there, like, they could have only taken up this much room, but instead they were taking up this much room.
We're not fighting about the dishwasher right now. We're not doing that.
But it's just, yeah, it's interesting.
We just have different brains, and our brains work differently.
Right.
They're big brains. They're just different colors.
It's just interesting, though. Like you said, there's some things that you cling to but then there's other stuff that just like, And I guess in some ways I'm like that too, Like when you backed my car into a pole, I was just like, okay, are you all right? That was my actual reaction. And then someone fucking makes a comment on Facebook and I'm like, you're wrong, brr.
Seriously, I'm like, why are you so mad at strangers?
Yeah, so I mean, we all have those things that we cling on, but yeah, it's interesting the ones within our relationship with that, like, you don't give a shit about, and then other ones, yeah, and you're right. I don't think that is something you had ever done or I had ever thought about prior to the last, I don't know, what, maybe year or two or something like that.
Yeah.
So
I used to be very agreeable and malleable and yeah, just very go with the flow. And it's like, who's this bitch with an opinion now? That's how I feel. I'm like,
well, I mean, I mean, that I always want your opinion, sometimes to a fault. You like don't want to give input. You just want to do. So yeah, and I think that's maybe that's part of it of why that happens to women is that, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen to guys either, but like in this instance, and maybe with women, it's that they feel like they have had no opinion for a long time. Maybe they're a stay-at-home mom. Maybe they just kind of, have kind of lost their identity a little bit. And so they just say yes to what their husband says and just easier that way. Maybe they do like most things. So it's just kind of easier to just agree. But I think that women, yeah, especially the stay-at-home moms who go through this shit, just lose themselves and lose their identity. And then all of a sudden they're like, I want that shit back. And their husband's like, well, kind of got used to this person who was just like, hey, I don't care. Whatever you say, I don't want to make the decision.
right.
And now you want to make the decision. It's like, okay, well, now I put the ball in your court and you're like, I got too much on my plate. So it's like, not everyone's the same, but that's just a general example.
Well, that is a good point. I mean, you brought up a couple of really good points. For one, I have felt a lot of times, like the best way that I can describe it is I feel like I'm going to explode. A lot of instances where I would have been just go with the flow and like not insert myself or anything. It's like I can't do that now. Mm-hmm. Like my capacity is so much smaller. Mm-hmm. And it again bothers me because this isn't the kind of person that I know. I'm becoming different, like to myself, So it makes sense when you're in a marriage and all of a sudden you're like, who is this person? This isn't who I married. That's fucking valid in a lot of instances. Yeah. I look at myself in the mirror and say that all the time. Who is this person? This is not who I am. Yeah. So it's definitely become harder to be just go with the flow and agreeable because my capacity is so much smaller. But then to your point, if you want to have an opinion or you want to guide the ship, then go ahead. And then it's like, fuck, I can't, I'm overwhelmed, like ADD, don't give me too much to do, So it is confusing, not just for you, but for me. Yeah. It's almost like I'm in this like separation. Like I'm almost ready to divorce who I was, but I'm still in the limbo stage of being the type A independent woman that takes care of everything to now it feels like I'm being naturally pulled towards being softer and letting you just take the reins and take care of me. Like it's funny because yesterday, even though I wasn't like asking you for money, it kind of felt good and comforting to say, can you take me to get a pedicure? Can I get a pedicure? Like I have to ask your permission. But I don't know. There was something I liked about that. like not having to make the decision, not have to make the final call. It's just kind of a relief, But it's also conflicting because that's not the woman that I have ever been. So I guess what I'm trying to say with that is I see it. I see how it can be really confusing for you, but I'm just in the separation. I'm not fully divorced from me yet.
It's like you blocked that number.
We still think about it.
Every Saturday night you get, a little drunk and you unblock the number and you text them, hey, with a slutty amount of Y.
How many is slutty? Like any more than 3?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hey, what are you doing? So I think that can be a big challenge too, is recognizing that this is an identity shift. Yeah. And I think that you just have to embrace it because it's not going to stop.
Yeah. I mean, there's a certain amount of leaning in that needs to happen and a certain amount of, just understanding and grace for yourself and, or really coming from both parties. when we're talking about a couple. So it's just, it's a process. And like you said, you're still figuring it out too. There's no perfect answer for this, but just sitting around and fucking complaining, isn't it? And just taking medications until they don't work anymore, or the side effects are too bad. That's not the answer either.
Well, final question that there were a lot of comments on is, do you want to divorce me because I'm in perimenopause?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this a lot, and just after I come home from working 100+ hours in a week, I just can't take it when I get home and, my wife wants to communicate with me and tell me how her day was going, even if it's good or bad. And then she wants to, help me build a future where we can live abroad and travel. And I can't afford to get a divorce. I'm not starting over with anybody else.
Right? I was like, getting home from working 100 hours, you literally work from home with me, maybe 30 hours.
No, that one dude's comment was ridiculous. It's just, a lot of those, the divorce comments, the super negative comments are clearly coming from people who just watched it for 20 seconds and saw you complaining.
Or it struck a nerve with them. And, like that guy probably does work a fuck ton of hours, and that's why he's impressing that upon you. Sure. But I do think that it's really sad that this does break up a lot of marriages. And that's why I think that it's important to be talking about it more.
Yeah, and it's true. It will break up your fucking marriage. We've seen it over and over. And it's tough, but there is ways to communicate and make it easier. You just both got to be willing to try.
Yeah.
As long as you both want the same thing at the end, it's possible.
Yeah, and I think that's been the greatest help is just you trying to understand, just like you did with my anxiety. You really made an effort to understand how I was feeling, even though you'd never felt that before. And that made me feel really loved, really loved and supported and valued as your partner. Just the fact that you wanted to understand. I think that's the most important thing. You don't have to fully understand it. In fact, it took you a long time to fully understand it because you had to feel it yourself to be like, shit, this is how you've been feeling when you say you're feeling anxious. Like once you felt it yourself, then you're like, I get it now,
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, Unfortunately, we won't be able to, guys can't just experience perimenopause and be like, okay, I get it now.
Right.
But, it's kind of like the being pregnant thing, like you gotta just try to understand and give some grace and, but communicate on your side too. It's not all about just bending over backwards for her and, doing whatever she wants to make her feel better. It's still a team effort.
If this episode hit home for you or even made you laugh a little, then please share it with your friend or your partner. And if you're in the thick of perimenopause and don't even know where to start, I got you. Just DM me the word recording on Instagram and I will send you the replay of our Hormone Reset Masterclass, where I break down the exact framework we use with our clients to help them lose weight, balance their hormones, and most importantly, feel like themselves again, even after they have tried everything, because you are not crazy and you are definitely not alone.